And as you indicated, the first in a series of symposiums started yesterday with a sports symposium, get at looking at sports in Soufrière and getting everybody involved. Let me just reiterate what was the purpose and what is the purpose of the 2040 vision and Soufrière 2040, what it encapsulates or what it's about. The board of directors have a mandate to include all the different sectors in Soufrière in terms of their strategic planning, and to develop a structure and a plan that incorporates enhancement, but that it's done from a position where we have all of the community, their input is involved in the process. And so that was the primary goal, and is part of the primary goal for getting the symposiums together. So you can have a wider pool of information that comes to the table. That itself goes into a wider strategic plan, and that it becomes a fuller gamut of what we look at the development for Soufrière over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Could you share with us among some of the discussions that was held yesterday, and in terms of was any objective met as well?
Right. Well, let's put it this way. There was a lot that came out. The reality is, I think we met one of the greater aspects, or one of the greater plans was to get information from our people. There was a lot of participation. It was extremely interactive. The environment is very charged. The people who felt that they had a platform to speak into the sporting arena, and persons who have been around for quite a number of years were there from the different fields, basketball, volleyball, netball, and rarely you had people coming out and saying, listen, we appreciate this is happening. We looked for this to happen for quite some time. And what came out was very specific interventions or possible interventions that could be put in place to see sports grow and develop. One of the bigger keys of the discussion was the whole developing of sports tourism and what that would look like in Soufrière. It is no secret that Soufrière has produced many, many talented athletes, and there are many talented athletes that we have presently, some overseas actively right now. And the program was, how can we capture the sports persons? How can we get them to a place where their skill and they hone their skill and they move on, and then you have a legacy for others to come up? And things like an academia that came out in terms of getting coaches, training your local coaches and seeing developing and capacity building for those persons on the ground who would be able to pass on the knowledge and the skill sets. There was a call for developing in terms of franchising certain things, in terms of competitions, whether you have it at a club level or you continue for a franchise level in terms of that. That was also being discussed. Opportunities for scholarships. So a wide variety and range of topics came up, and was well put and well coalesced. There was with us Mr. Claudius Francis, also part of the process as a consultant, and his role basically is to look at what's coming out of the symposia and create that huge strategic plan that becomes part of what we will look at as a 2040 application to development in Soufrière.
Not ruffling any feathers, but what makes this one really different? Because in the past, symposiums have been held, consultations, if I am to say, has been held, but then it never goes anywhere. Mm-hmm. Everything remains stagnant. So why would person believe that this is one with a difference, for sure? And what really speaks to me, I think, representing women and disabled, and the minorities, I think when it comes to the disabled, priorities are not really given to them on that regard. So I would love for you to maybe detail or walk us through the various incentives or plans, again, that are there.
Okay. Well, here's what makes it different. There have been a number of interventions prior to this. There's been discussions that have been had with separate groups up to this point. And I think we expressed very clearly at our last interview when I was here with Director Nancy Nicholas that there is accountability across the stages. This is the first of many to come, and there will be a solid PR machine that indicates what the stages are and what the deliverables are. It's not just a matter of a discussion. You're right in saying that. We've seen many symposiums before, and the reality is it becomes a white paper and it stays on a shelf, and there are no action plans that come out of it. This one in particular it's being driven with a very clear, distinct plan, and that plan will be followed up with an action plan that is communicated to the people. So there will be staging in terms of the drawing up of the framework or the structure for that particular sector. through that, you have a solid public PR machinery that indicates what the next stages are, an action plan, and what the deliverables are. So the fact is, I want to put it very plainly, there is a clear indication on the ground from the board and the directors in terms of what this would entail. And we are accountable to the people. The people can take us to task in terms of asking for timelines. There are clear timelines that are being communicated, and so that is something which is very clear. In terms of your second question, in terms of persons who are specially abled, that also is being taken into perspective. The reality is there's Paralympic sports, and that's an area in St. Lucia which would need some level of growth and expansion. So that will be taken to a different level in terms of the Ministry of Sports, and it may even become part of the other symposium, which has to do with youth development, youth empowerment, where that aspect is being taken up. But that is also part of the whole component. Out of this, as I said, we'll be going to the media, we'll come to 88.5, we'll again detail to the people of Soufriere what the action plans are and what the interventions are for the growth of the sectors.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cazaubon. Not forgetting crime continues to be an issue. How do you plan on deterring such as well?
Well, it is a ongoing function. As of yesterday, I know the district rep and the chairman had a meeting with the Prime Minister in terms of discussing crime in Soufriere specific. At our last discussion here, we did indicate there are many interventions that SRDF is partnering with the police at this point to deal with the crime situation. But here's what. When we begin to look at crime as something that affects every single one of us as a community, it strengthens the response. The reality is the public needs to be aware that the police they can trust the police. Likewise, there needs to be that component where the police have that level of capacity for them to do their jobs and do it effectively. So there are different layers that needs to be addressed. And there are interventions at this point that I can't even clearly indicate very specifically, but SRDF is very much involved in assisting the police and having consultations with the police to assist in getting them to the place where there is that level of capacity for them to address crime and address the issues of crime very effectively.
Thank you very much. Yesterday's discussion also were on the national community programs. You can share with us, please?
Yes. Well, these plans...
Maybe youth development particularly?
Right. I don't want to jump the gun in terms of detailing what those plans are. As a matter of fact, it will be premature for me to do so. I would rather the next program when we indicate. But just to simply say that there are a number of programs set aside, and these are being fine-tuned as we speak. At the appropriate time, we will indicate what those plans are from the national level for Soufriere.
Great work indeed. To persons who are not necessarily of the sports or they're not sports enthusiasts, when or how soon will the other symposiums will be held that speaks to creative industries, that speaks to food and agriculture, education, and so forth? Right.
The intention is to have a symposium every single week. So the next symposium, based on the schedule, should be education. That will be next week. You get a heads up with regards to that in the PR. Thereafter, we're looking at fishers. That's the other aspect that also is very important to the lifeblood of a community like Soufriere. And then we have agriculture. And then I believe tourism going down the line. The creative arts in itself will be incorporated, but we are taking everything systematically. Here's what happens. Normally, when you have too many things happening at the same time, you really lose the impetus of what you're trying to do. So it's important that everything is being taken at a specific level so you can address them sufficiently, and then you move on to the next. We will be indicating via, again, our PR machine, press releases. People will be aware of what is coming next in terms of the lineup of the different symposia, but all of the sectors will be addressed.
Definitely. Your sentiments as the general manager for the Soufriere Regional Development Foundation and those consultations that are being held to impact community, to impact self, how does it really make you feel?
Well, here's what it is. We have a mission, and the mission of the foundation is very clear. And I want to put it very simply. Whatever we get from the sites that we operate in terms of revenue, that has to go back into the community. That has to help empower our people, empower the community, help the socioeconomic fabric of our community. And having those symposia, what it does, it enables you to have a very scientific and strategic approach to how that is rolled out. We might be missing the mark in certain areas. And so this symposium is what it does, including also the bigger plan that the district rep has for the community. It ties those two structures together. So when you have a deliverable in terms of what you want to come out, it is done effectively. You really have the areas that you want to cover, you cover them. So really you are meeting the needs that need to be met, and you're not shooting blanks, if I could put it in a better way. So from my perspective, I'm very, very happy to see this. It's a good machinery and a good program in terms of structural development and forecasting what you intend to do from our standpoint, from a developmental standpoint. And also in terms of the fact that it really affects livelihoods, people's lives and livelihoods, and impacting their economic standing. It's a tremendous way of fulfilling our mission and mandate as an organization.
Okay. So we can greatly say with yesterday's symposiums and the series of words to come, Soufrière will greatly be placed on the map. And I love the idea when it comes to the sports to have representation regionally and internationally that can definitely speak volumes.
That's correct. Soufrière in itself has, as I've said, has had huge talent. And we have gone through the seasons and the years where many of the talented athletes, sadly, they do not really achieve full potential. We cannot allow the continuance of this. There must be an intervention that breaks that cycle so that we give all our athletes, our young ones, our children, the full ability to explore the area when it comes to sports. Sports is a doorway that can open up to a multitude of things that affect your life, affect your way of living, and affects other things. And from a touristic standpoint, it is another component in terms of sports tourism that you need to look at. St. Lucia has a lot to offer. So we must be able to capture that effectively and have the right interventions to see us fulfill that mandate.
Thanks. Though Mr. Saint-Jean is not here with a question, I would love to ask him. Perhaps you can answer. In terms of yesterday, and I know there were a lot of clubs that are existing. Are there upcoming clubs, new members, persons who have the interest into wanting to join again with what's been made available to them, especially with the 2040 plan?
Yes. Well, out of that discussion came again the discussion. I want to say it's a long, old discussion of clubs and club structures and how do you address it. And the conversation was, normally when you talk about club structures, you start with a club structure, but then you go into having teams. So I think the discussion was, how do you coalesce the two? How do you have established a strong club structure, but in the same sense, out of the club structures, you have your teams, whether it's for the different sporting disciplines. What I expect to see going forward from this is clear, defined interventions to help those clubs that want to step again, or those clubs that exist, to strengthen the fabric of what they do as a club, and then be able to branch out. So the disciplines, the club structure, that becomes one, to see more formidable in terms of groupings for sports in Soufrière.
Not throwing you under the bus, but don't you think SRDF perhaps should have some sort of a club, not really sports, but something to represent the community, if it's education, if it's through fishing? I'm just suggesting something.
Well, here's what I know.
Because
I know
of our mandate, perhaps maybe we should have a club.
We should be part of something.
Yes.
Well, I know there are a lot of sporting people. I know probably you play netball. I don't know, or even played football or something of the sort. But in terms of integration, because there are persons who may be involved in different clubs and sporting and arenas, so it may not be practical. But for sure, in terms of our involvement, whether it comes to some layer of sponsorship, whether it's a matter of getting or assisting, getting personnel to help in developing the different capacity areas that needs to be addressed when it comes to sporting dynamics or sports psychology, wherever we can assist. It's a matter of advocating for our community liaison office. SRDF will be there to assist.
Do you, Mr. Cazaubon, believe that enough recognition is being given to those who have contributed immensely to the community, especially in the line of sports?
I think we have to profit the opportunity at the season to do so. I think there has been in time past, I think maybe it may have been 2 years ago, the Youth and Sports Council had an awards ceremony where they did, I think some persons did get recognition for their past contributions. Yes. But I believe what we need to do is probably catalog and document once we have the opportunity. I know we have a program called Unsung Heroes, so it might be something I want to throw back to the radio station, that you may need to begin to look in that particular area, given the fact that we are in a very open moment, that we are doing the symposium at this time. There are a lot of persons like T. Francis and even young Kevin St. Jean. There are a lot of people who have done and are presently doing very well when it comes to the area of sports. So it may be something that I want to throw back to 88.5 to begin to document and catalog and carry certain programs that highlights these persons, their contributions, what they have done. We cannot forget Helena Emmanuel. I mean, she's another one of those persons who have done huge in sports, a huge athlete, and many, many more. So I guess I need to throw it back out to 88.5. I think it's probably the time in the season where we begin to go back to the Unsung Heroes program and document those people, their life, how they were able to succeed and what they're doing now to succeed, to help put them on the map and at the very least show some level of appreciation for what they've done for Soufriere.
Thank you very much. I didn't realize I threw us under the bus. So, it is now 5 minutes moving upward to the hour of 11 a.m. in Surface and Lucia, and of course the Eastern Caribbean. Just to reiterate, who's in studio with me, our Acting General Manager, Mr. Lester Cazaubon, Soufriere Regional Development Foundation. Interestingly, we had the first in a series of symposiums yesterday, which kicked off with sports wellness. Am I correct to say that for sure?
That's correct.
Not straying from it, Mr. Cazaubon, but yesterday we saw the commencement of the hurricane season. Again, if there is an appeal you would like to make given from our ends in terms of our staff and the community, feel free to just do so as well.
Sure. Yeah, well, with every given year, we know the hurricane season, June to November. We are particularly want to be a little more cautious. You should just 6-1 storm. So the appeal is for us to be prepared. Based on the information coming out from the agencies that they expect a very active hurricane season. We've seen a lot of rain over the past couple of days, so it's important for us to be mindful of this. From our end, SRDF will be making sure that our sites are prepared for any situation. I want to assure persons and their staff, the staff, that they should also be mindful of the fact that we're in a hurricane season, a very active one at that. So in terms of the homes and home structures, to make sure that these things are being taken care of. So again, it's a perennial thing. Hurricane season comes and goes, but it's important that we do the necessary interventions to make sure that we keep safe.
Thank you very much. All in all, we have arrived at our juncture for sure, so all in all, could you just provide your sentiments on the whole activity yesterday and moving forward as well? What can be expected?
Well, again, I'm speaking on behalf of the chair and the board and management. We are very happy with how this thing has started. There's a lot of thought. Thought has gone into putting this together as a structural plan to develop a strategic approach to development in Soufriere. So we're happy that it started at the right note. I mean, I was again impressed by the numbers of persons that came in, and not just the numbers. How interactive they were and open and candid. Everybody really spoke to the depths of their heart with regards to sports yesterday. It was very, I think it has set the tone for what we believe will be very, very good sessions coming for the next couple of weeks ahead. And as I said to you, it's one where there will be clear indication as to what the deliverables are through our PR machinery. The people will be aware of what's happening. You will not be left in the dark. There is also the ability to call in and ask questions. There's an open door policy at SRDF. If somebody would want to make a contribution, probably and felt that they didn't get an opportunity at one of the symposiums, there is that opportunity to come into the office, sit with myself, sit with the chairperson, and have an open discussion. We are very much open. We must recognize, again, this is an all-inclusive. It's about Soufriere. It's about our community. This is where we live. And we have to be part in the building process. And I think we are beginning to achieve that. And once the sentiment is in the right place, I think we will accomplish this very, very well.
Yesterday's proceedings wouldn't have been possible without the lovely sponsors. Kudos to these. here is the opportunity to thank them.
Well, okay. Before I even go there, I must highlight the assistance and the efforts of our community liaison officer, who worked very assiduously, and her team, Lindsay Matre, our camera crew, likewise those who were on the ground to assist the auxiliary people. Must also highlight the efforts of Mr. Shallow, Jonathan Shallow, and Mr. Kendall Alexander. Huge shout out to them, and gratitude being expressed to them, to the parish priest for the hall being provided, and the catering, all those persons who came on board. We are very much happy for this coming together, and we express our sincere thanks to them for that.
Anything else?
Yes, well, I cannot live here and not say that you guys are continuing to do what you'll do as a radio station. You continue to make SUFRA proud. I just want to say this again is the best radio station. Nobody can change my mind with regards to that. Keep on doing what you're doing, guys. Great job, Cabrine and the team. The sky's the limit. So let me just thank you for this time and say to you, continue the good work.
Thank you very much. It is now 11 a.m. in Surface and Lotion, Eastern Caribbean. This has been a special edition of House Guest for today, Thursday, dated the 2nd of June, 2022. Again, we will provide you with updates as to when the other sets of symposiums will be taking place. Blessed day to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in.
You asked for more live and relevant talk shows, and we heard you. 88.5 SUFRA FM presents House Guest, a brand new fresh fortnightly feature airing on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. House Guest will showcase a cadre of professionals, from doctors and entrepreneurs to the next door friendly neighbor. So tune in as we network the community with a platform for open, frank and informative discussion. Only on SUFRA FM, your community radio station.
The public is hereby informed of the regulations for the SUFRA jetties. The jetties are managed by the SUFRA Foundation.